This video is a freestyle trick tip for flat ground 360s. A flat ground 360 is a really fun trick that is not that hard, so it's a good trick even if you are a beginner to try and learn and to practice. And what it is a 360, so when you do a full 360-degree rotation with your board on the ground without popping it in the air or anything like that. So it's kind of like two pivots or two endovers back to back. So I guess I'll just jump into, let me do one real quick and then I'll jump into how to do this trick. So that was it. Very basic, very simple. And the first thing that I like to talk about in these videos is your board setup. This really doesn't matter too much. The main thing you want to be able to do with your board, because I know sometimes longboarders will watch these videos as well, you want to be able to get your feet and have a stance so that your feet can extend past the wheels so that you can lift both ends of your board up. That's pretty crucial to being able to do this trick. And that is really the main thing. So on a longboard, that's gonna be really difficult if you can't get your feet past your wheelbase. So a short board is nice for this. A really small board though might be a little bit more difficult because you might not be able to get your feet out as far as you can to maximize your stability, because the further out your feet are to a certain point, the more stable you're gonna be on the board. So I ride like a standard size street deck, and honestly anything that's like a freestyle board, a street style board, even maybe some smaller, shorter longboards that have like a 16-inch wheelbase or a 17-inch wheelbase might work. Next is, well, that's pretty much it for setup. Next is gonna be maybe prerequisites for this trick. Like what should you be able to do? What's helpful to be able to do before doing this trick? And it's definitely helpful to be able to pivot, especially fakie pivots. So a pivot is essentially just when you pivot 180 degrees on your board. And you're going to want to be able to do this in two directions really well and clean, because you're gonna have to do the 360 is basically two pivots. So it's important that you don't just do like a pivot, a fakie frontside pivot, and a fakie backside pivot. Do two pivots that connect to each other. So what that means is if I'm doing a fakie backside pivot, I should also practice a regular frontside pivot. I might have gotten frontside, backside incorrect there, but the point was that I kind of continued the motion. It doesn't matter which pairing of pivots you do though. So by that I mean, like, I like to start this trick going fakie. That's just what's most comfortable for me, and that's what I recommend learning in. Learn it in the direction that's most comfortable for you. And I think that might be most comfortable for me because I learned full cabs or fakie 360s before I actually really worked on this trick, which is a harder trick, but I really wasn't into this style of skating until later on. So we covered the two pivots. Be also very comfortable riding both switch and regular. You don't have to be like a pro in both directions, but like definitely be a little comfortable switch, because especially if you're starting fakie or switch, you're gonna end fakie or switch. Endovers might also help here, and this might even be considered an endover. I'm really not good with trick names, so this might be considered a 360 endover. I don't know, but an end over is kind of like a pivot. It's just a little bit smoother. I guess, what is the difference between, I'm gonna do one and try and figure out what the difference is. So those were some 180 end overs. And where a pivot, you might be more going like that. I think an end over tends to be a little bit more wide stance, and you drag your wheels on the ground. And when you start getting better at these flat ground 360s, the goal, I think, is really to have your wheels skimming the ground the whole time, so it's kind of like a smooth, fast hover. Okay, so pivots, end overs. Now actually doing the trick. Like I said, I felt most comfortable spinning a 360 when I start fakie and spinning over by looking over my left shoulder. That's my most comfortable spinning direction. I know a lot of people are also more comfortable spinning backside, where you're looking over your right shoulder if you're regular. So I'm gonna start with my feet just outside of the wheelbase, just outside of the trucks. I need that so that I can lift the wheels up. If I am here, it's gonna be a lot harder. It's gonna be more like a power slide, so you're gonna need to force your wheels along the ground, and that's gonna be harder. If you're too far, it's just a little awkward and uncomfortable, and it's actually more sensitive when you have feet further apart because you're basically using more leverage. So it's easier to kind of make a mistake, I think, if you have your feet too far apart. The exact position doesn't really matter, it's gonna be up to you. And my feet are generally pretty perpendicular with the board. When I go to do this trick, I tend to wind up a little bit. You don't have to wind up. I think it maybe helped me a little bit. And you're going to spin, looking over your back shoulder. And as you start to spin, you want your shoulders to move with your hips. And you're going to apply a little bit more weight on your front foot as you spin around. And as soon as you get the full 180, you're gonna transfer your weight from your front foot, which is now in the back, to your back foot, which is now in the front. And then you're just gonna very gently put the weight on this foot and keep spinning your shoulders. So this is all one fluid motion. In order to keep the board flat on the ground, I'm not really lifting up the foot that's not pivoting. So if I'm here, and I start to pivot this way, I almost use a little bit of my toes. I keep my toes down to kind of push the board down a little bit. Even though most of my weight's here, I still have some force pushing down here so that my wheels kind of slide gently on the ground. If I don't have that, the board is gonna come up high and do more like a pivot. That might be a good way, or that will be a good way for you to practice though, because it's going to probably be very hard to do this, especially if you're a beginner, without having the practice of at least doing it with pivots. So I'm going to do a few with pivots to show you what that would look like. So start slow, you don't have to do it fast, and just pivot. And just do that. So I'll do it again. And do that when you're first learning this trick. Don't worry about trying to let your wheels drag. Just get comfortable with that motion. Once you start being able to do that well, now you can start trying to drag your wheels along the ground and keep everything a little bit lower. So you still might be slightly segmented, like there might be a little bit of a gap between them. I'll do one in a less comfortable stance so you can see that. you can see my wheels are coming off the ground a little bit more there, and it's not as smooth, it's not as fluid of a motion. As you keep practicing those more and more, you'll then be able to do them faster, but keep in mind your shoulders and your arms while you're doing this. Try and stay stable, try and keep a straight back. Try not to hunch. This is just going to help your form and help you be more stable with this trick so that you can link it to other things, other footwork, other lines, not lines, but other tricks in a line. So after doing it a little bit longer, you'll start to be able to do them like this. Hopefully you find that this isn't a super difficult trick to learn, but do know that it is going to take some practice to get really smooth. And once you start getting it smooth, it is so fun. You just spin around and it's great, and it is a great little thing to throw in a line and just make you smile. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and have fun and be safe.